Something exploded on that stage, and it wasn't just shouting. It was years of bottled pain, jealousy nobody wanted to admit, and a single sentence that hit like a match in a room full of gasoline. One moment the cast was laughing, cameras rolling like any other reunion episode, and the next, Chloe and Madelein were standing inches apart, voices shaking, eyes burning, and the entire room went dead silent. You could actually feel people stop breathing. Because this wasn't reality TV drama anymore. This felt personal. This felt like watching two friends rip open a wound they had both been pretending didn't exist. And the worst part, nobody saw how deep it really went until it was already too late. I've been reading your comments for weeks now. A lot of you keep saying, these shows are scripted. It's all fake. And honestly, I get why you'd think that. We've all been burned before by overproduced drama and staged fights that feel more like acting class than real life. I felt the same way when I first saw clips of this argument popping up on TikTok. I thought, here we go again, another publicity stunt. But then I started digging. I watched the uncut footage, the behind-the-scenes leaks, the interviews they didn't want highlighted, and what I found wasn't polished or clean. It was messy. It was raw. It was two people who once trusted each other completely, falling apart in front of millions. And if you appreciate content that actually looks beyond the surface, hit that subscribe button, because I'm not here to sell you drama, I'm here to tell you the truth behind it. To really understand why this fight hit so hard, you have to go back before the fame, before the followers, before the red carpets and brand deals. Chloe wasn't always the confident, camera-ready personality people know now. There was a time she was just another girl trying to get noticed, posting videos late at night hoping one of them would catch fire. She talked openly about rejection, about sending audition tapes that never got replies, about feeling invisible in a world that rewards the loudest voices. Her rise wasn't overnight. It was slow, filled with doubt, filled with moments where quitting probably felt easier than continuing. And when she finally broke through, when her name started trending and her face started appearing everywhere, she carried that history with her. That fear of losing it all never really left. Madelein's story wasn't much different, but the way she carried it was. Where Chloe wore her emotions openly, Madelein built walls. She grew up learning to smile through disappointment, to hide hurt behind humor. People close to her have said she hated looking weak, hated the idea of anyone thinking she needed help. When her own big break came, she leaned into independence so hard that it became part of her identity. Fans admired her strength, her composure, her ability to stay calm under pressure. But strength, when pushed too far, can start to look like distance. And distance can start to feel like betrayal when friendships are involved. The two of them meeting was electric at first. They supported each other publicly, hyped each other's projects, laughed in interviews like sisters who'd known each other for years. Viewers loved the chemistry. It felt genuine. But friendships in the spotlight are different. Every compliment gets analyzed. Every absence gets questioned. Every tiny change becomes a rumor. And somewhere along the way, support quietly turned into comparison. Comparison slowly turned into tension. Tension turned into silence. The kind of silence where you can feel the unsaid words stacking up like bricks between two people who once talked about everything. Then social media started whispering before either of them did. TikTok edits comparing their achievements began circulating. Twitter, or X, threads broke down who was winning and who was falling off. Instagram comments became little battlegrounds, fans defending one while dragging the other. Reddit threads went even deeper, analyzing body language from interviews, pausing videos frame by frame like detectives searching for proof of a crime nobody had officially committed. One comment read, "You can see the jealousy in her eyes, it's obvious." Another said, "They're still friends, you guys just want drama." And that divide grew louder every day. What once looked like harmless fan chatter started feeling like pressure being applied from all sides. But here's the part nobody was ready for. The first emotional layer of that tell-all wasn't even anger. It was disappointment. Chloe spoke first, and her voice cracked in a way you can't fake. She didn't start with accusations. She started with hurt. She talked about feeling abandoned during a critical moment in her career, about calling someone she trusted and getting silence instead of support. The room shifted instantly. This wasn't a scripted jab. This was someone admitting they felt alone when they needed a friend the most. The second layer came from Madelein, and it wasn't defensive, it was tired. She admitted she had pulled away, but not out of spite. She said she was drowning in her own struggles, dealing with anxiety, overwhelmed by expectations she never talked about publicly. Her words weren't loud, but they hit hard because they showed a side fans rarely see. The strong, unbreakable persona cracked for just a second, and you could see the human underneath. And it made everyone wonder how many misunderstandings are born simply because people are hurting in silence. Then came the third layer, and this is where the energy changed. Chloe revealed messages, not screenshots on a big screen, but references to conversations that hinted at promises made and promises broken. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. The weight of those words filled the room. Madelein's expression shifted from calm to stunned, like she hadn't expected those private moments to be brought into public light. And the cast, people who had been chatting seconds earlier, suddenly looked like they were watching a storm roll in from the horizon with no shelter in sight. I know what you're thinking. Maybe this is still just drama for ratings. Maybe it's exaggerated, but ask yourself this: have you ever had a friendship where something small snowballed because nobody said what they were really feeling? Have you ever watched a relationship crumble not from one huge betrayal, but from 1,000 tiny misunderstandings that never got addressed? That's why this hit viewers differently. It felt familiar, painfully familiar. The fourth layer was the most uncomfortable because it exposed jealousy, the word everyone avoids. Madelein admitted she struggled watching Chloe's rapid success at one point. Not because she wanted her to fail, but because it forced her to question her own progress. It was honest, almost painfully so. Chloe, in turn, admitted she sometimes mistook distance for disloyalty. Two confessions that should have brought understanding instead revealed how deep the cracks had already spread. Social media exploded instantly. TikTok live reactions flooded feeds. Tweets rolled in every second saying things like, "This is the realest moment I've ever seen on TV," and "I didn't expect him to actually admit that." And then, the fifth layer. The one nobody was prepared for. The final revelation wasn't about career moves or missed calls. It was about a private conversation that had never been meant for cameras. Chloe revealed that during one of the lowest points of her life, when she felt like quitting everything, she reached out, and what she heard back wasn't encouragement. It was doubt. Not harsh words, not cruelty, just a lack of belief at a moment when belief meant everything. Madelein tried to explain, saying she thought honesty was better than false hope, but by then the damage was already visible. You could see tears forming, not dramatic sobbing, just quiet tears that told you this wasn't about fame anymore. This was about trust that once cracked, never quite sounds the same again. The cast didn't know where to look. Some stared at the floor. Others blinked rapidly like they were holding back their own emotions. Viewers online were split right down the middle. Instagram comments filled with messages like, "Friends should always support each other no matter what," while others wrote, "Real friends tell the truth even when it hurts." Reddit threads stretched for thousands of replies debating who was right, who was wrong, and whether anyone truly wins in situations like this. What made the moment unforgettable wasn't shouting or insults. It was the silence after the last sentence. That heavy, echoing quiet where both of them realized the fight wasn't really about that day or that stage. It was about years of unsaid feelings finally finding a voice. And maybe the biggest shock wasn't the confession itself, it was how relatable it all felt. Fame didn't protect them from miscommunication. Followers didn't shield them from insecurity. Cameras didn't stop them from feeling human. So now everyone's asking the same questions. Can a friendship survive public honesty like that? Is it better to protect someone's feelings or tell them a truth that might hurt them? When does independence become isolation? And how many relationships in our own lives are hanging by threads we pretend not to see? By the end of the tell-all, there wasn't a dramatic walk-off or a slammed door. There was something almost more haunting, uncertainty. A half-hug that looked unsure. A promise to talk later that felt fragile. The kind of ending that doesn't tie things neatly but leaves you thinking long after the screen fades to black. Because real life rarely gives perfect resolutions. Sometimes it just gives honesty, and the hope that honesty, even when it hurts, might still be the first step toward healing. And maybe that's why this chaos didn't just shock the cast. It shook the audience too. Not because it was loud, but because it was real enough to mirror our own friendships, our own regrets, our own moments where we wish we'd spoken sooner or listened better. In the end, the biggest explosion wasn't anger. It was truth finally stepping into the light, messy and imperfect, reminding everyone watching that behind every headline, every viral clip, every trending name, there are just people trying to be understood.